Chris Barber, welcome to the Metagame.
Thank you for having me.
You're kind of hard to define. You don't have the most legible online presence. You've done a bunch of different things, though, from what I've gathered. You co-founded an executive coaching marketplace. You have great posts on AI Prep, where you interviewed a bunch of different experts. You started a startup accelerator with Matt Mashari. You ran a successful bootstrap business, and then you self-identify as an independent researcher.
Yes.
Who, from what I can tell, has been prioritizing something you're calling emotional regulation.
Yes.
And I gather that you have a thesis for why this is important. Of all the things that you've done, why you're leading with emotional regulation. So I thought a good place to start is, what is it and why is it so important?
Awesome. So I think that, firstly, some people sometimes have the image of emotional regulation as suppressing emotions, kind of being cool on the outside. What it means to me is I would love to live in a world where everyone is super, super good at helping the people they care about get back to these kind of states of peaceful, flowing, open, calm. And so to me, emotional regulation is about how well can you healthily process an emotion and get back to that kind of baseline, flowing, calm state. And what I have seen, both for myself and the people around me, is that for me personally, there definitely hasn't been a skill that has been kind of higher ROI in terms of just feeling good. I think that all problems are people problems. All people problems are emotional problems. And I'm using all here kind of in a bit of exaggerated way. It's not quite all, but basically all. And so the extent to which you are good at helping the people you love and care about, your partner, your kids, your close friends, your close family, get back to those states of peace. And also with yourself, just the better life is going to feel. And definitely been true for me and been true for others. And it just feels like kind of low-hanging fruit for the world too. But I'm mostly even just selfishly, it's I care about it for myself and the people around me and for everyone.
So the way you're describing emotional regulation is this process of finding peace or getting back to this state of calmness.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you developed a very concrete skill that you call resonance, which
Yes.
is your answer to the question of how to regulate emotions. And we're going to get into that.
Yes. The answer so far. Maybe we'll keep evolving. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious if you can tell people how someone with your background ends up focusing on emotional regulation and then develops
Right.
a modality that might be, for all I know, might be completely novel and seems to work.
Yes. Why did a startup, bootstrap startup person end up doing emotional regulation stuff? So I think that a long time ago, I remember seeing this kind of Jeff Bezos talk about, regret minimization framework for life. And I think I remember at the time thinking yeah, that's great. I would love that. I would love to have kind of the life where I feel really glad about everything I've done and really kind of regret minimized. But I was also okay, and then how kind of thing. So I think that was probably a question that was in the back of my mind for a long time. And I think the weird answer is I don't really know how I came up with it, or even why I care so much about it. I was looking back at my notes and it's the oldest mentions I can find of it are kind of from 5 years ago. And then I started using it kind of quite a bit more 3 years ago, around when we had our first kid. And then started teaching it more to other people beginning of last year. And so I think the answer is I just tried a whole bunch of other stuff and my subconscious kind of was cranking on it overnight for years and years, being okay, cool. I really like this part of this thing and this part of this thing. And this is the essence of this thing. And it just kind of, created some very weird hodgepodge mix of the kind of what is the distilled essential items of everything else that I tried and liked and found most, productive and effective for myself and others. And kind of like what was the essence of it for me. And I think that's kind of how I came to it, but it was very much there was no kind of intention or thought or attempt to do it. It was just kind of like that's weird. Like now I've been using this thing and it's like, all of a sudden, like I realized like, wait, this is weird. Like I'm actually using a thing that I've invented and I realized I've been using it for months and I, wasn't even aware of when it started. Yeah. So kind of strange. And then also I think the other thing is like being in the world of startups and product development. A lot of that is about, well, at least for me, a lot of that was about kind of understanding people and what they want and what they need. And there's probably like some sense of, after all the custom development conversations I've done about other businesses and other products, like probably some kind of inescapable conclusion for my subconscious of like, yeah, like people need products, but also like even more than that, they need some better kind of tools for helping other people process their emotions and get back to states of peace, and the same thing for themselves. So I think that's probably another part of it. It's just like, yeah, once you kind of, it's not necessarily something that people broadcast, but like everyone needs this stuff. And I need it. People I care about need it. Everyone I talk to needs it. And so that probably also fed into my subconscious. So just being like, okay, cool, this is important. Let's like put some energy towards this and see what we can do.
Yeah, I like that answer because it's something about you pulling on a thread and not really being certain where it's going to lead. And this is this is foreshadowing some of the stuff. In fact, barely even aware that I was pulling on the thread in the first place. Right. You're driven by intuition in a way, or by something.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, emotional regulation is obviously important. At the end of the day, all problems are like people problems on some level. If we get sufficiently good at solving those problems, we can coordinate, and then by coordinating, we can solve like all the other problems. So
totally,
I totally get the argument. And it seems like resonance is this like foundational skill or the way to achieve emotional regulation. What exactly is resonance?
So there's two answers there. One is the theoretical answer is it's a way of speaking that helps other people and yourself process emotions. The practical answer is that it will be easier to show. Mm-hmm. Would you like me to elaborate more kind of theoretically, or do you want to go into the demo? What's your preference?
Let's do a touch of theory, because I also want to, and then go into the demo, because I want to tie this in with a recent conversation I just had. And so
cool.
I have a quote from my last conversation with Daniel Thorson, which I think he's speaking about resonance. And I just wanted to see if this awesome. Is what he's talking about.
Cool.
But in that conversation, we were talking about how spirituality is secure attachment with reality. And basically cool. all the things that you care about are kind of downstream of attachment. So solving attachment issues is primary. It's a very cool. Great conversation. One of the most important ones I've ever had. And one of the things he said in it was, we were talking about the mother wound. So one of the ways in which attachment issues occur. And he said that part of the way, I'm quoting Daniel Thorson now, he said, part of the way that the self-world model gets constructed in early childhood is through many iterative loops of the child reaching into the buzzing, blooming confusion of their interior and trying to speak it in words, and then having the mother receive it and offer it back in a more integrated way.
Nice. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Totally.
And something dysfunctional happens in that with our imperfect parents, and then that leads to all sorts of other issues. And when I encountered your stuff, I'm like, I think he's talking about the same thing. So
good. Yes, that seems right to me. And I think that that sounds like resonance. That sounds, and it resonates with me hearing it too.
Yeah. And part of the reason why I'm connecting this is I look for like convergence or consilience, and I'm seeing like a lot of it pointing to this. So maybe now we can get into, if you have any more to say about the theory, feel free, but we can also just get into a demo.
I think the demo sounds great.
Cool.
Awesome. And I will add a piece of theory in the demo as well. So for the demo, what we'll do first is I'll ask you a couple questions to contextualize it for you. And then I'll give a brief kind of contrast of like what isn't resonance. Sometimes it's a little bit easier to explain kind of in contrast, and then what it is. And then we'll just go right into the demo of you resonating me on something, and I'll coach you while we do that. So the first of two context questions, I think people's standard kind of ranking of the context where they most care about using resonance is one, helping others around them, partner, kids, close family, close friends, co-founder if they have one, when that other person is kind of upset or stuck. I'm going to tell you 4, and then that's kind of the standard ranking. I'm going to ask you, if yours would be the same or different. Number 2 is kind of resolving conflict more easily. Number 3 is for use with themselves, for decisions or procrastinations or when they're frustrated or something like this. And then number 4 is kind of the more casual, just casual conversation, making someone feel seen and heard in casual conversation, but not when the emotional stakes are necessarily high. So that's the standard ranking. 1 is like helping others, when they're kind of stuck or upset or something like that. 2 is conflict. 3 is with self. And then 4 is casual conversation. How would your ranking differ, if at all?
I feel like I would put casual conversation as number 1.
Awesome.
I'm not sure I understand the purpose of ranking them exactly, but I'm just thinking like just vibing with people is more of a common experience than having conflicts to resolve and stuff. So I feel like that's where it's going to show up the most, even though the stakes are lower.
Cool. So it's a more common experience. It's like more frequent for you. So therefore, like if that improves, then it's just going to have a bigger difference.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. And then which people, I'll give kind of the standard and then ask you again kind of how you would shift that order. I think for most people, it's partner number 1, if they have a partner, kids number 2, if they have kids, then it's kind of other close family, then themselves, then kind of co-founder, teammates, then close friends, and then kind of customers, clients, partners, that kind of thing. How about you? What would be at the top there?
Probably clients right now, just the nature of my work as a coach. And then, when I've been in intimate relationships, partner would be like number 1. I'm not a parent, but I imagine kids would be number 1. And then, everything else seems the same.
Cool. Yeah. So number 1 would be kind of casual, the more common conversations, especially with clients. And then, when you have partners or had them in the past, kind of casual interactions with partners as well.
Yeah, actually, when you were saying this second list, I was thinking more like higher stakes, like, making decisions with a girlfriend or resolving conflicts and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Awesome. So number 1 is kind of with clients, kind of as you go, both for casual and for deeper stuff that you're helping kind of get them unstuck on. And then number 2 is like stickier stuff with partners.
Yeah.
Awesome. Wonderful. So that may come into play when we pick your topics as well. The brief contrast, and then we'll go right to the demo. Some of the things I think that people often do when emotions are involved for someone else that I would describe as not resonance. Now, these things aren't necessarily bad. It's just that my view is that they're unhelpful when emotions are present for the other person. It's like these things can be great if they're done after the emotions are dealt with. The challenge is that people often do them before. And so this is like giving advice, like here's what you can do. That's a huge one. Again, kind of a related, a cousin to that would be just generally giving logic and rationality and reasons and explanations like, oh, here's why this isn't an issue. You're actually not thinking about this part of it. So it's actually not a problem. Or another similar thing, reassurance, like, oh, it's actually going to be okay. Like you don't need to worry because of this, this, and this. Those are all well-intended, but they don't quite have the desired effect. Then there's also like fixing or distracting, like, let's go do this, let's go do something fun, blah, blah, blah. Or like, here, like, let me actually just solve it for you to like get you out of your uncomfortable emotions here. And then probably the last one, and this one's kind of I find it sometimes a funny one, which is when someone says like, "Oh, I understand," or like, "I hear you." My expectation whenever someone says that is that the other person is going to feel very not understood, because it's like you're trying to convince them that you understand them rather than demonstrating that you understand. So that's kind of the before. Again, not bad things. They're just like not helpful when emotions are present. That's kind of the way I think of it.
Yeah.
And then the resonance thing, there's like 3 main tools. It's like copy statements, guess statements, and exaggeration statements. So I'll do a quick example and then we'll go into the thing. This is from someone that I was teaching resonance to. They were skiing with their girlfriend, and their girlfriend was tired and kind of wanted to stop and was sitting down kind of mid-slope. And I think their default response was kind of more of the reassurance, like, "Oh, like you're doing really great, like you can keep going," kind of trying to fix the emotion that way. The resonance example might be something more like, "Oh, like you don't want to do this slope in the first place." And the guess might be like, "I bet you wish we were just back at the cabin." And the exaggeration might be like, "Oh, you only did this run because I convinced you to do it, and you wish you had not listened to me because you knew you didn't want to do it in the first place." So you're making a really big deal of it all. So that's the essence of it.
Okay. That's like a bunch of gears are turning now, because
Nice.
yeah, there's some magic happening there with the exaggeration one, which I wasn't aware of, but that makes a lot of sense.
Awesome. Anything that you would like to ask before we go into the demo?
I have some questions, but I think it'll make more sense after the demo.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, before we started, I thought about a topic and I was like, oh, you know what? A topic for me that I care about and I have some kind of probably stuck emotions on is thinking about all the things I wish I could communicate to people about resonance. So let's use that as a topic. I have feelings about it and I care about it. And the thing I'll note with resonance is like, you can resonate with someone about something they're excited about. You can resonate with something about they're happy about. You can like, it's not only a tool for kind of, quote unquote negative emotions, which, is a framing that I would disagree with in the first place. But so first tool, copy statements. So the way we'll do this is I will give you a thumbs up when I say something, and then you just say back to me something that has 3 or more of my exact words. And I'll do kind of like I'll kind of snap my fingers at the same time. So if someone's just listening, they kind of know what's going on. And so, yeah, you just kind of repeat a few of the exact words I used, minimal to no paraphrasing. If I say too much stuff and you can't really remember it, just do whatever you can remember, just do the stuff at the end. How these will all fit together is think of them as like 3 separate skills that all benefit from reps. And once you have enough reps, then your brain will kind of automatically use them whenever they're beneficial. And it's not a thing to do like, oh, step 1, step 2, step 3. It's more like we're doing that for the practice so that you get the reps, enough reps so that your brain can actually use it. I
love it. Very clear.
Awesome. So this one, I'll give you a thumbs up and use 3 or more of the exact words. So let's see. There's a lot of stuff that I would like to communicate to people about resonance.
Sounds like there's a lot of stuff that you would like to communicate to people about resonance.
Yes, there is. And it is also, I've had the experience where someone can understand it perfectly conceptually, and then they go to say a resonant statement, and it is like completely the opposite of what I might be imagining.
It sounds like even if people understand it conceptually, you have this experience where when they try to do it, it's nothing like what you were imagining.
Yes, exactly. And also, I've seen for me and some of the other people that I've taught it to, it's like, I mean, for me, it's, completely life-changing. Number 1 skill I wish I could give to my younger self. So I also know that for some small, and for a small percent of people, it's like game changer. And so there's also some thing of like, oh, I would love to figure out ways of how to transmit it to people without needing to, one-on-one teach everyone. But
You've seen that it's life-changing for you, and that it's a game changer for a percentage of people.
That's right.
And you want to find ways where you can share it with more people without doing it one-on-one all the time.
Yes. Awesome. Great. That's 3 in a row. You're a natural. The next tool, and honestly though, by the way, again, I'll note to like people listening, it's like some of these things it sounds so simple. It's like, oh yeah, you're just copying the same thing. And then, but people will do that. And then they add other things that make it very much not a resonant statement. And it's not going to resonate in most cases.
Yeah. Let me just add in, actually, I had to very consciously avoid paraphrasing.
Cool.
I found myself like doing too much, and it became kind of challenging, actually.
Your brain's trying to like avoid, you're kind of thinking through your default response, and then you have to like actually consciously think of something else, kind of.
Yeah. Or so I imagine this might even be this all fits together, I'm sure, but since we're already here, I'll say like one question that popped in my head that might pop in the listener's head, which is, it sounds too simple to simply repeat your words back to you.
Totally.
So I feel like, I gotta like show that I'm actually listening by like putting in my words or something, because any parrot can just repeat the same words.
Yep.
But yeah, so that's kind of what was going on there. Yeah.
And sometimes people worry. It's like, isn't that just going to look like I'm mocking them, or like, does that look silly if I just like say the exact same thing back? And it's like, it can as an observer. Like if you're observing someone resonating someone else and using a copy statement, you know, like, well, they're just copying what they say. But for the listener, like, they feel very resonated and heard. But yes, also I'll add the other tools in, and it does kind of is part of a flow. There are a lot of, and that's kind of a challenge with all this stuff, is like, I was saying this to my wife recently, which is like, this stuff is so hard, because the people that you're, most close relationship with, you have hundreds of thousands of conversation reps with them of whatever you started doing, when you were like 3 years old or 2 years old or whatever. And so of course that's going to be like, that's where all the gravity goes in the conversation, is like to whatever, like, and especially in situations of stress too, because if you're stressed, like your body is going to go to, oh, what's the tool I know best that I'm, most sure isn't going to have a strange outcome? Like, oh, I'll go back to the communication method that I learned when I was 2. Like that's probably the ideal one. And it's valid because it's like, it's the least uncertain. Like our bodies obviously love certainty, because, uncertainty is danger, and like the tiger that's going to, eat you, kind of thing. And so, it is very hard to get over that inertia of what we are used to doing. And people will experience that, absolutely, without a doubt. Okay, tool number 2, guest statements. And this, so it'd be kind of same thing, get 3 guest statements in a row. And what a guest statement is a copy statement first, followed by a guess that starts with either but, because, or you wish. So, blah, 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 you'll do your copy statement, but, and then a couple tips on the guess. If I am saying something, it's like in the skiing example, you want to do more negative guesses rather than more positive guesses. You wouldn't want to do like but you also know like that it's going to be fine and you're going to be able to do it.
Right.
You want to let me go to the positive first. You want to go to the negative, because like that's going to be that's almost always the stickier one. And let the other person add the positives, basically. If you're not quite sure what to say, you can reuse something that I said in a past sentence. A key, and this kind of goes to the thing you alluded to earlier, is you want to use the words that you think I might use, not your analysis. It's like a lot of the times, I think an error mode that I see in people is they'll do like and it seems X, Y, and Z, and then they give you their analysis of what the other person is like thinking or feeling. And it may be correct, but
Yeah.
like it's not going to land as well with the other person. What lands well with the other person is like what they would say. So they may be feeling sad, but if you say, oh, it seems like you're feeling sad, but if that's not what they would say, like they're going to reject that because it's like you want to deal with what's on the surface for them, like what they're ready for, all this kind of stuff. Like a silly example is like, I remember there's some times of like resonating my son who's like 3.5 now. And this was, I don't know, maybe like when he was maybe around 3 or something like this, or 2.5 or something. And there was like a few times where it's like, I resonated about something and like, oh, you're sad. And he's like, no, I'm not, but like my sister is. He's like, and it's like, so then I just resonated his sister, and it's like I'm resonating him by proxy. It's kind of thing. So like that's the general principle of resonance is like you're working with the other person's experience, wherever it is, whatever it is, and it's all about kind of being in the other person's kind of world and kind of helping them communicate whatever parts of them want to communicate, like helping their emotions do their job of communicating a thing. And so the very specific practical thing of that is like, if I see something and you think like, oh, I'm angry, instead of saying, oh, Chris, like you're angry, you would say like, oh, Chris, like it was your thing. Like you didn't want them to do it. Like you're going to use the words that I'm going to use that are angry words rather than saying, oh, you're angry. So it's less labeling and more just kind of try and say what they would say.
Yeah, that's a really good distinction. And
awesome.
Guess statements are copy statements plus but, because, or you wish?
Correct. That's right.
Okay.
Nice copy statement kind of thing. Yeah. Wonderful. Yes, exactly. All right. Awesome. So we'll go into that. So, there's a lot of stuff that I'd like to communicate about resonance, both the kind of excitement about it, but then also the reality of that it's like challenging to onboard to without live feedback or something like that.
There's a lot that you want to communicate about resonance, but you wish it would be easier to communicate it at scale and onboard people.
Totally. I would love that. That'd be so good. I wish there was some like, yeah, absolutely. I wish there was an at scale way that I could onboard people to it in a way where they would get to the kind of baseline of the skill where it's enough for them to have that kind of magic moment experience, which doesn't take very much. It's just that I haven't, succeeded in doing it any kind of like async ways yet.
You want to get people to this magic moment experience, but you haven't found a way to do it asynchronously,
right?
And you wish you could.
Totally. Yep. Totally. Nice job, kind of adding the guess there at the end. Yes, exactly. And also, and this is almost like, evidence that you're successfully kind of resonating here, because I'm now pulling myself to some of the positive stuff, which is, and also like, I know that like, if there's something to figure out here, like eventually I'll figure it out. And it's also kind of a fun journey. Like it's a puzzle. I like solving puzzles. This is a fun puzzle. It's like, I don't need to, force myself to do any of it. It just is like a great hobby. So, I'll get there when I get there kind of thing.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a fun journey for you because you enjoy solving puzzles and you have faith that you'll get there when you get there. Totally.
And then I would say now we can go on to the third one. So this is the kind of the meat of it. The way that I conceptualize it is copy statement kind of gets you in sync with someone, because like, especially like when you're using someone's words, that's like the fastest way to kind of feel in sync. The guess statements kind of help them feel seen. It's like copy statement is like, oh, he understands me. Guess statement is like, oh, like he kind of sees what I'm going through here. And then So if you're doing casual conversation, you're probably only going to use those two, because exaggeration statements, can be harder to use in casual conversation because they can like seem a little like, maybe they're going to seem a little more extreme or more weird or something like this. But if there is any situation with some kind of stuck emotion, the exaggeration statement is the piece that does the work. I saw that you had Michael Johnson on your podcast, and I remember reading his neural annealing piece like a couple of years ago. I think that it's a pretty, for the TLDR, for people that haven't read it, is, or at least my understanding of it is kind of the brain. You could think of it almost like I'll use a glass blowing analogy. It's like if the brain is cool, then it can't really reshape in the same way that when glass is cool, it's not going to reshape. So it needs kind of heat or energy added to it so that it can kind of become malleable and reshape. And the challenge is that some areas of our brains kind of get stuck in these like suboptimal valleys. And so we need some kind of injection of energy to allow that part to basically heat up and then recool. And I think that that's like kind of why exaggeration, my guess is that's like kind of explains why exaggeration statements work, because it's kind of like you're taking a thing that's stuck and you're exaggerating it until it has enough energy that it can then kind of reflow and recool. I may be totally wrong. This is just more of a vibes feel.
Checks out to me. I like it. I like the image.
Nice. So for this one, you can kind of think of like copy gets you in sync, and then guess is almost like finding where the emotion, the stronger kind of things exist, and then the exaggeration is like now you're kind of drilling for oil on that spot. You've like found gold, and now you're kind of going for it. So I will give you for this one. I'll give you thumbs up when you basically repeat a copy guess that seemed to resonate with me, but you exaggerate it more. First with the words, but then also with, you can also use tone or sounds or body language. I'll give some examples. The first thing you'll likely do is like, after I hand it over to you, is start with a couple more kind of guess statements where you're doing the copy, you're doing the guess. You're like kind of checking like, okay, cool. Which is the thing that resonates most for Chris? And it kind of still like seems like it has some energy behind it. Okay, this one. Okay, great. Now I'm going to like slowly start kind of exaggerating this one up until it seems like that one's kind of done, which is an experience, sometimes an experience I have with resonance. It's like, it's so weird because it's so different to how conversations can go sometimes without resonance, where it's like someone has something that they're really emotional about and you do a really good job of resonance. And then it's just like all of a sudden, like that thread of the conversation just like disappears. So back to exaggeration statements. For this one, I'll give a thumbs up when you do a guess. So it's, which a guess contains a copy. So it's a copy and a guess. One that resonated with me. And you're going to kind of like slightly exaggerate the words of it. And you're going to basically then keep exaggerating the words of it. I'll respond back, and then you'll kind of keep exaggerating until it kind of feels like you've slightly exceeded the strength that I feel about it. And I appreciate the kind of the smiling on that. It's like, because that is kind of the key. It's like you have to go like slightly. You're not gonna magically do it at exactly the right level. So like you really only know you've done it at the right level once you slightly exceed it. And it's kind of, if I feel 100 out of 100 out of something, and you give me a 20 out of 100 emotion on that, maybe you're going to help me process 20 and I'm going to go down to feeling 80 out of 100. But if you give me 101 out of 100, like great, like maybe I'll get back down to 0. And have you ever done foam rolling?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So my wife likes this analogy. Like to her, she thinks of this as kind of like the foam rolling part of resonance, where it's like you found the spot and now you're just going to basically hold it on that spot until the kind of tension releases and that spot's done. And, I think the like default I think of here is like 15 to 30 seconds is kind of like what it ends up being. Like on average, sometimes it's a little longer. Sometimes it's a couple minutes. And a lot of times it's shorter if it's a small thing, but that's kind of the ballpark. So, what are some notes here? Sincerity is key. I would say avoid jokes. Doing exaggeration is an awesome, like, advanced form of resonance. And I think, humor and comedians are like really good at resonance. Like, if it, a joke that resonates is going to be something that's much, lands much better. And, but when I see people that are new to resonance I often sometimes see people try and do like a jokey kind of guess, and it often has it doesn't help the resonance, I would say. But totally is a advanced tool that works. Just avoiding initially. Example might be like if I'm saying like, yeah, it's fine, then you might notice in my voice that like I'm saying it's fine, but my voice is kind of saying it might not be. So then your response might be like, some of you it's fine, but like, you also kind of think that it's terrible. And then I might be, yeah, I guess. And then like, you also like, maybe it's not even, part of you feels like it's more than terrible. It's kind of like the worst thing that could have happened to you right now. Yeah. Or like, and you can kind of keep going until I'm like, well, yeah, it's like about that. And then you kind of know that you found the right level, and then you kind of hold that for a little bit, and then you're done. So that's the kind of how to exaggerate in words. You can also add the tone of like, oh, it's terrible. Like, oh, you're kind of adding the sounds, maybe adding the body language, kind of throwing your hands in a certain way. For the demo, we'll probably just do, again, like 3 in a row. But I think like in a normal, if someone's stuck, maybe you're kind of doing something that feels like repeating the same exaggeration statement, lightly paraphrased like 10 times before you're done. And you can know when you're done once it's like, I think a way to think of resonance is like, anti-bad vibes. Whenever there's like bad vibes or a bad mood, it's like, to me, that is like, okay, there's some like stuck emotion somewhere, either for this person or like in our relationship, like in a dynamic right now. And that it's done once, like you can just kind of feel it goes back to like flowing and easy. There isn't any like energy that's holding it back on that other thing. It's not like the person's still trying to talk about it. They just totally move on. Or if you're doing it with yourself, it's just like, cool. Like, I'm just kind of done.
I just realized I have a friend who does this kind of instinctively, and they have a somewhat flamboyant personality.
Yeah.
And if you ever have conflict with them, they might say something like, and then there's bad vibes. They might say something like, you really hate me right now, don't you?
Incredible resonance.
Yeah. And then you're like, no, I don't hate you. It's just when you did that thing earlier, it made me, and I realized that there's some magical move there by like going
1,000%.
Way too far and then allowing the other person to pull it back.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think of it as like the kid analogy is like, if there's a kid, if you have a kid and then they come to you and they're like sad about something and you kind of explain why they shouldn't be sad about it, like they're probably still going to be sad about it. They're just going to like hide their emotion a bit. But if you are like sincerely, and you don't need to agree with the person, I'll make a note about this. Like if someone's saying to you, the sky is green, you can say like, oh, you really think the sky is green and you wish everyone agreed. And you're probably super annoyed at me for not saying that it's green. And you wish the whole world thought that. And in fact, like you think that everyone's just so wrong for not thinking that. They're like, yes, like exactly. And so you don't have to agree with them. But in that case, then it's like, yes, like I feel understood here. That emotion has kind of done its job and it can kind of process and I can get back to regulating and go back to peace. Whereas before, it's like you're stuck because that emotion isn't going to let go until it's succeeded at doing its job. So it's like the kind of resonance works because we're just like, okay, what do emotions want to do? They want to help information get communicated. So it's like, okay, cool. Let's just help them do that as quickly as possible. So it's kind of like you're a plumber, and if there's a sink full of water and the water is the emotion, and explaining why something isn't a problem, that kind of tightens up the drain. It like stops the flow. It might stop the flow, but like the tub is still full of water. And so it's like still kind of there. Whereas resonance is like, okay, let's actually just make the drain really big so that the water can drain super, super, super fast. And like the emotion can be, fully felt and do its job. And then we can kind of go back to flowing.
Yeah. Cool.
Yes. Yes, you don't need to agree. Sincerity is key. And so, add the use if you need. It doesn't, again, like definitely doesn't need to be agreed. But you do need to be able to like sincerely hold that person's kind of frame or emotion or whatever. Okay, let's go into this. So yeah, the cue I'll say is like, start with a couple copies and guesses, find the thing that you think resonates. And then once you think you find that, then start the exaggeration ramp first with words. And then once you kind of have hit the right-ish level on words, then you might try the tone, the body language, that kind of stuff. And I will note that like, I would say for the default thing is that like, I would say probably majority of people can't do this on first go. So, very reasonable outcome of like, we do it and it's sticky, and that's totally a normal outcome for this as well.
Cool.
Okay, so yeah, it's like I'm excited to teach people the resonance stuff, and I would love to find more people that kind of see it the way, see it as beautiful as I see it, kind of thing. And also I'm well aware that it's tough to onboard people to it.
You would love to teach people about resonance, but part of you is a little bit frustrated that not everyone immediately gets it and sees it the way that you see it. And you wish that the magic would just be more clear when you're onboarding people.
Totally wish the magic would be more clear. I wish it's like, I get that it's hard, but I like wish it's like I view it as like fault of the teacher kind of thing. But it's like, I wish it's more like I want to find the way to I really want to, I think it's like I really want to find a way to like teach it in a more scalable way. That'd be great. But it's like, it has to work.
Yeah. You want to figure out how to teach it in a way that's scalable, where it works. And you wish you knew how to be the teacher that could do that.
Totally. Yeah, totally. And, oh, by the way, I should have also kind of snapped on the first one as well. Whenever you do a guess and it's not the right guess, that's still resonant thing. And I always think of like, people always appreciate, and it's always a helpful thing to give someone a sincere guess at what you like think they might be trying to put into words. So it's always kind of a resonant thing. Yeah, exactly. I really want to, it's like, I'm sure there is going to be some way, and I'm going to find it. It's going to be cool. But also like, there's part of me that's like worried. It's like, fuck, like that was talking for like, I can't find the like way, or like, and I think there's also another thing of like, some of the other projects I've done have like, been more about like, helping people raise money or get jobs or like earn more money and things like this. And it's like a lot easier to get people to care about that. And I wish that as much as people care about all that stuff, they care about the resonance stuff, which I see as like, being more helpful to people's lives. So there's probably also a bit of that. But yeah, so it's like I want to find the thing, and I would be sad if like I can't find like a more scalable way. And I also wish that I wish that it was as juicy as helping people, increase their income and this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to find how to teach this in a scalable way. And there's a part of you that isn't 100% sure that you'll be able to do that. And that makes you kind of sad. And then it's extra annoying that it's way easier to teach people all this like capitalist shit, so like how to make more money or whatever, when ultimately that the thing that they need has to do with
totally.
emotional regulation. And why can't they just see that?
Totally. Great exaggeration in words there, by the way. Awesome. So that's 3 in a row. And if we were doing more, you would just basically do, like, you've kind of found the spot there. And so you would now just kind of go like your friend you were talking about, and you would just kind of get a bit more exaggerated, while still being sincere and not joking. But you would just kind of, do that for another 6 or 7 statements. And then I'd be like, yeah, exactly. Like, that's it. That's right. Like, you got it. And it would be kind of just like done. And that's how it works. So, yeah, you did great. You did great on the copies, you did great on the guesses, and you did great on the exaggerations, which, I'm not shocked about given your background as a coach. Awesome. And of course, in real life, when you're using this, like, don't do it in the stodgy way. We did it in the demo of tool 1, tool 2, tool 3. It's like purely intuition-led tool. Just like, I think the key is, because you have, hundreds of thousands of reps of regular ways of communication, you just need to get 100 or 20 conversation reps of using resonance, just enough so that your body is comfortable using it when it thinks it might be helpful. And then your body's just going to automatically use it without you thinking about it, once you've kind of got through that, installation hump or something like that.
One reflection about this, practicing it, is something that feels a little bit awkward in a way that almost feels like I'm doing something wrong, is that I'm making statements about someone else's experience, and I'm saying you, as opposed to asking questions or And so I imagine this is something you have a response to, and I thought I'd bring it up.
Yeah, because you're like, I don't want to talk onto someone's. I don't want to put words in someone's mouth. This kind of stuff. Yeah, what I would say for that is, what I normally tell people that have that kind of concern is, like, you actually, like, the simplest thing is just to modify them, and you can just basically add question marks to everything. So if you prefer to do it as more of a question, everything the same, but just kind of question tone, basically, like question tone at the end, kind of ask it as a question. And you can also add more kind of checks in there as well if you prefer. So it's like when you're kind of doing the guesses, it's like you do a guess, like, is that right, kind of thing? Or you just kind of say the guess, like, is it kind of this? Or like, is it more like this or kind of more like this? And yeah, so that totally works. Still very much resonance. Doesn't have to be statements. And also, I just think of them as another tool, and kind of use whichever method works. Both you can get to, both of them work great.
Yeah. So just to recap, because, I find some of the most powerful practices are deceptively simple. Resonance comes down to, let's just say, like, the intuitive deployment of these 3 types of statements. And I say intuitive because you made a point about how you do enough of these reps and then you kind of trust that you'll know when to apply these. But it's copy statements where you use 3 or more words that the other person just used. It's guess statements, which is a combination of copy statements plus but, because, or you wish, or you guess what's going on with the person and what it means to them. And then exaggeration statements, where it's a guess statement where you just take it like a few notches too far, and maybe you keep building it up until maybe you cross the line, and then something releases.
That's exactly right. Yeah, good recap. And yes, it is extremely simple. So much so that I remember, like, someone that I taught it to was like, we did resonance about it. It was like they had parts that were like annoyed about it being so simple because all the other methods that, all the other methods have been so complicated, and they were like, wow, how can this be so simple and like work? Like, that's so annoying. It's so silly. And it is. It's extremely simple, and it's silly and beautifully ironic that it's so simple.
I want to add, if someone's listening to this and feels kind of unconvinced by the demo so far, one thing, so you have a page where you had these videos of doing resonance with your kids.
Yes.
So as like a parenting tool, and something about that context makes the magic of it extremely clear. I remember watching some of those videos and I found myself tearing up because there's something about the innocence of the kid, like just trying to make sense of what's going on.
Totally.
And then applying these practices in that context, you see how powerful it is. So I'll link that in the post, but if someone's like, is this really that magical? Like that page, I think is very convincing.
Good. Awesome. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, it's wild. I was saying this to someone who just had their first kid. It's like, to me, I think like most parenting challenges are one of two things. It's either kind of a money / support thing. Like parenting is definitely easier when you have money or you have a bunch of tribe kind of support. Mm-hmm. Like that's A. And then to me, everything else is basically like emotional regulation challenge. Mm-hmm. And the thing that I like about resonance is that it works just as well with like CEOs as it does with husbands and wives as toddlers. Like we with our daughter who's now year and a half, almost 2, we resonated her like, I mean, from very pre-verbal kind of thing. It's like still kind of same thing. Even you can resonate a pre-verbal kid basically because you can still kind of have an idea of what they're trying to communicate and just help them do that. So it's kind of trippy, but so it is those. I can send you a kind of recap screenshot. It's those 3 tools. It's the copies, the guesses, the exaggerations. When you're doing casual conversation, you're going to more kind of just do the copies and guesses. And if there's kind of stuck emotions, then that's kind of where the exaggeration is a crucial piece. Like I don't think you really get much emotional regulation without the exaggeration, but without the exaggeration, the other person can still feel really seen and really understood, and that's awesome too. But then it's like it's less kind of less magic, I think, less unique magic, perhaps.
Yeah, just maybe to close on a couple of questions. So the skeptic in me thinks of the situations I've been in where, sometimes people get, like I've met certain people that seem to get emotional about things that are extremely small. And most people are agreeable enough so that they will validate other people's emotional experiences. And then sometimes that hijacks the goodwill of others. And so I notice that there's a part of me that doesn't want to always go along with whatever emotional experience someone is having, because part of there are people out there who are petulant. Mm-hmm. And so how do you pair this skill and disposition of resonance and like joining with the person's emotional experience with the edge cases, or maybe they're not edge cases, where maybe you need to have a boundary or point out that somebody's making a big deal out of nothing?
Yeah, totally. So it's kind of like, how do you do it? Like there are times where you don't necessarily want to always be dealing with someone else's emotions. And so like, how do you, when are you always going to resonate? Like, or how do you set a boundary around it? What do I do? I think for the people closest to me, it's whenever I can resonate, I always will. And to me, there's like 3 kind of levels of difficulty of resonance. One is when it's a situation that totally doesn't involve me at all. That's the easiest. 2 is when the other person is annoyed at something I did, but I feel, semi-neutral about it. That's pretty difficult. It's quite difficult. I definitely encourage if anyone's listening, like only start with the situations that don't involve you at all, because the other ones are just like definitely too hard to learn in for mostly. And then the hardest is ones where they're annoyed at you and you're annoyed at them, and you're both kind of dysregulated about the same thing. So I think that for people close to me, it's like my default is like, it's always like there's never a case where I don't want to be able to resonate someone close to me. But I will say that like doing resonance is especially if it's big emotions involved, that's a high effort activity. And so, it's very reasonable to not want to do it for everyone. The kind of casual, like, copies and guesses, I think can become like so like effortless that like those are easy to do whenever. But the more exaggeration type stuff, I think it's totally reasonable to I think like, if someone's listening and it's like, are they going to always have to give into someone's emotional tantrums with this? It's like, what I would hope instead that people do is like, whenever they feel good and peaceful and an intuition tells them that they would like to resonate with the person, great, do it. And then whenever they don't, and just kind of, instead of any kind of rules around it, just kind of let it all be led by intuition, resonate when it feels good and right to do so. And if they feel like they really should resonate this person, but they actually don't want to, then like, don't, never force yourself to do it. You don't want to like accidentally create, some relationship debt, some kind of resentment or anything like this. And also I expect that in a lot of those situations, like I think a lot of petulant people probably just need like, a month of really good resonance, and then like they might go back to being like a lot more chill. I think it's like a lot of like, heavy stuck energy type stuff, but also like, that's a big ask to be the person that does that lot of resonance to get them there. So, intuition guided, I think, is the only answer I could give.
Yeah. And I will highlight something you said there. I know, you said in your notes that you don't recommend people do things from a place of should or shouldn't. And this is something I also really believe. And so if you notice that you feel like I should have to resonate, don't do it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Follow the intuition.
Chris, we're coming up on time. Is there anything you'd like to leave the listeners with as we close?
I would say yes, a couple of things. One is what I would tell, my past self, and what I think is true for a decent portion of people, maybe everyone, who knows, is that the more practiced you are at helping the people around you process their emotions and return back to states of peace, especially your partners and kids and close friends and close family, the better their lives will be, and also the better your life will be. And then doing the same thing with yourself, game changer skill. And it's very, very learnable with practice, like on the order of like a couple hours, like 2 to 3 hours, I think, like get someone to the point where they can hit the magic moment and then like be kind of in it and using it in conversations and just kind of getting better automatically. And I hope that whenever people have questions about emotional regulation or resonance, send me a DM on Twitter. My handle's @ChrisBarber, because I love answering. I love this topic. I'm obsessed with it. It's a hobby. And I hope that if people have questions, they will send them, because I would love to. I'd love to read them and answer them.
Yeah, and we'll put that all in the show notes. Chris,
awesome.
Thank you so much for your time today.
My pleasure. Thank you.